So in just a few days, it's Rosh Hashana again. Hayoim Haras Olam. And this year, Rosh Hashana, Chali Yois B'Shabbos, and we won't have Tkiyah Shofar first day. So the Mishnah Masechet Rosh Hashana Chof Tesamet Beis Yom Tov She Rosh Hashana Shechali Yois B'Shabbos. We don't blow shofar, and why is that? Have Emena. In the beginning of the Sugi of the Gemara wants to learn from the Psukim. On one hand, the Pasuk says, Yoim Trua Yiyalachem, and then Yoim Zichroin Trua. When is it Yoim Trua, and when is it Zichroin Trua? In the middle of the week, we blow shofar, and it's Yoim Trua, Shabbos, Yoim Zichroin Trua. And then the Gemara rejects this commentary, this pshat. In Yerushalmi, it's the Maskona, but in Bavli, it is not. And the Gemara says it's a Gzeres Chachomim. Chachomim were mevatel mitzvah diurais of shofar. Gzeres shemi averene daladamas b'shus harabim. There might be an individual who gets up Rosh Hashanah in the morning and suddenly he realizes, I don't know how to blow shofar. And he wants to go to learn how to blow shofar. And he will take a shofar and he'll take it in Rishus Harabim. And he's going to be Yover Ana Melachus Shabbos Mavi daladamas b'shus harabim. Second part of today's Shiur, we will deal with a fundamental question that troubles many Gedolim throughout the ages. Seems to be so far-fetched. Who is this strange guy that wants to blow the shofar, and he didn't have time to prepare in advance, and he gets up Rosh Hashanah in the morning and is going to learn how to blow? Where is he going? To the house of a Baltekeya? The Baltekeya probably is in Shul already. He's davening. It's a long davening Rosh Hashanah, but anyway. This is the halacha. We don't blow shofar. And there's a fascinating argumentation between achroinim. What is the essence of Tekonas Chazal? Did they totally annul a mitzvah d'oraisa? Do they have the power to do that? So what happens if a person does blow shofar? And Rosh Hashanah Shechal Yez B'Shabbos. Rabbi Kiva Eger maintains he's over on a Issa D'Rabbanan, and he's Mekayim a mitzvah d'oraisa. Because the mitzvah is intact. Chachomim cannot say there is no mitzvah. But on the other hand, he's over on an Issa D'Rabbanan. Chelkas Yoyev totally rejects that interpretation. So Rabbi Kiva Eger is in Drush V'Chidush LeRabbi Kiva Eger. This is a sefer that came out 200 years ago. Maroches. Today, I doubt you could even buy it. I bought it as a bocha, and to me, this form I bought more than 50 years ago are so precious to me. You know, it's like diamonds, it's like gems. But today, if you want to find that Rabbi Kiva Eger, don't look for the Sefer Drush V'Chidush. In the new Rabbi Kiva Eger, it's in Psochim Daf Pei Tes. Psochim Daf Pei Tes is a very well-known Tosfos. Tosfos says, how could you give Korban Pesach to Ktanim if a Kotan is not Mechuyev Min HaTorah, and it's a Isser to give Korban Pesach Shelo Lemenuyav? And Tosfos says, Mitzvah's Chinuch. When there is a mitzvah, even though it's an Isser as well, Osa Lahachal Pesach Shelo Lemenuyav, but Mitzvah's Chinuch is still there, the general Mitzvah's Chinuch, to be Machanech Talam Lechiyas Korban Pesach, when they're going to be big. And therefore, there is no Issa Safiyah Beidayim. Mogen Avraham Orechaim Shimem Gimel writes that just like Ein Ma'akven Esatenoikes Milit Koya B'Shofar, that's a Mishnah Lamed Beis Umed Beis in Rosh Hashanah. Chazal said you don't blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, but there still is a mitzvah of chinuch. So Mogen Avraham says it's the same regarding Pesach Shelo Lemenuyav. Yes, Chachomim said you should not blow, but there still is a concept of chinuch. And Rabbi Kiva Eger argues, Ein hanidain doimel l'raya. Pesach Shelo Lemenuyav is an aveira. So how could there be chinuch? Tkiyah shofar b'Rosh Hashanah is actually a mitzvah. It's a shvus as well. It's an Issa D'Rabbanan. But it still is a mitzvah, and therefore, for Ktanim, there is the concept of chinuch. So Rabbi Kiva Eger maintains, and Issa D'Rabbanan on one hand, but there still is a mitzvah d'oraisa on the other. Avnei Nezer Yordei Kuf Mem Aleph says the same as Rabbi Kiva Eger. Chelkas Yoyev was actually a Talmud of the Avnei Nezer. He quotes Rabbi Kiva Eger Obviously, he wasn't aware of the Avnei Nezer, and I wonder if he would see the Avnei Nezer, whether he would still write so harshly to reject this idea. What Rabbi Akiva Eiger was before the Avnei Nezer, greater than the Avnei Nezer, but Chelkes Yoav admired the Avnei Nezer. Chelkes Yoav bekuntes Kabed Kushaisa. Kabed Kushaisa is a fascinating sefer, and I don't know of any similar work. The Chelkes Yoav was one of the greatest Gedolim in Poland. Rabbi Yoav Yehoshua Weingarten, he was the Rav in Kinsk, which is a little Polish city. And he wrote a sefer, Kabed Kushaisa. Kabed is Begematria Kuv Gimel, 103 kashas without terutzim. Well, it's clear to me that the Chelkes Yoav could have written 10 terutzim to each of these kashas. It's not that he didn't have terutzim, but it was a gift he gave to young Bnei Torah in Poland. They should deal with kashas, they should suggest terutzim, Pilpura Dioraisa, Melchamta Shel Torah, Kushya, Tzadik Det. He totally is choylek on Rabbi Akiva Eiger. He asks a few kashas, but primarily he says, based on Tosfos, Sukkah Gimel Amud Aleph. It's clear in Tosfos. The Chachamim do have authority to say, if you don't follow our rules, you don't even have a mitzvah dioraisa. The sugya is Sukkah Daf Chav Ches. Machlokes Beishamai veBisera. Misha Oichel B'Torcha Sukkah v'Shalchona B'Torcha Bayis. He has a small sukkah. He's sitting in the sukkah, but all his food and the table is in the house, not in the sukkah. Is it mutter to eat in that sukkah? He says no. Imosi sukein lo kiyamta mitzvah sukkah miyomecho. Tosfos says, lo kiyamta mitzvah sukkah miyomecho mashma, you have no mitzvah at all, not even the mitzvah dioraisa. So the Chelkes Yoav spews from this Tosfos. If Chachamim said their word, and you're Mekayim mitzvah dioraisa against their will, you don't even have a mitzvah dioraisa. So this fundamental question, I want to phrase it differently. Soon we'll deal with Tosfos and Sukkah. This chiddush that we find in Tosfos, that Chachamim have the authority to say you don't even have a mitzvah dioraisa. But in our sugya, this is the machlokes, the Akiva Eiger and Avnei Nezer on one hand that say, still a mitzvah dioraisa. Chelkes Yoav says, no, there is no mitzvah dioraisa because you didn't follow the rules of the Chachamim. Sefer Priya Oretz, one of the Sfadi Gedolim 300 years ago, Chelik Beisim and Yud, deals with an interesting shayla. A person by mistake blew shofar on Shabbos, and he said, Bircha Shechianu. Does he need to say Shechianu again tomorrow? L'choyre, this question is dependent on the two tzdodim. If we say there is a mitzvah, then it was yotzei the mitzvah of Shechianu. If we say there's no mitzvah at all, then it's a bracha levatorah, and he should say the Shechianu tomorrow. But the Priya Oretz presents this question in a different light. And he says, the fundamental question in this case is, Kol milsed yom rachmona lo taved yoved mahani. That's a machlokes Abaye and Rava, Dav Daled the Masechet Temura. Abaye says, mehani, Rava says, lo mahani. Anything you did against the Konos Chachamim is void, is invalid, it doesn't work. I already wrote a few different sources in my sforim, primarily Bava Kama Minchas Oshes Menun Vav. Well, Bava Kama came out in a new version, two Chalokim, so it's no longer Semenun Vav. Chelik Beis Bava Kama didn't come out yet, and I hope it'll come out very shortly. But anyway, Madura Kama, Bava Kama Nun Vav, I explained. There are two concepts that are similar but cannot be the same. Machlokes Abaye v'Rova Tmura Dav Dalet Kol Milsed Yom Rachmona Lo Ta'avid. Anything that Torah said, do not do, and you did do, according to Abaye Mahani, it's valid. According to Rava Haloche Kamaisai, Lo Mahani. That's one sugya. The other is Mitzvah Habo Ba'aveira. They cannot be the same. Different words, different definitions. Mahani Lo Mahani, Mitzvah Habo Ba'aveira. But beyond that, Mitzvah Habo Ba'aveira, everybody agrees, you have no mitzvah at all. And that's Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in Sukkah Daf Lamed, Megedol HaTanoim. Iyoved Mihani or Lo Mahani is a machlokes Abaye and Rava. Later Ameroim, so it's not the same. And they explained very clearly, very vividly, two different systems. Mitzvahs, that's where the klal mitzvah b'avera applies. Chaloisim. What is a chalois? Any maisa shel Torah that changes the status of a person or an object. That's a chalois. Kinyonim. Money, shatel, is transferred from one owner to another. Kiddushin. A woman that was eligible to marry now is a Eishes Ish. Gerushin. From a Eishes Ish, she was transformed to a Pnuyo. Trumas Amaisis. Peiris that were Tevel. Alidei Afroshes Trumas Amaisis. A part of the Peiris are Muta Ba'achila, Chulin Mitikonim, and part of the Tevel becomes Truma and Maisa. Mehani or lo mehani. That means chalois. Does it work or it doesn't work? By mitzvahs, these hagdoras are inappropriate. By mitzvahs, the question is yotzei dechavosei or lo yotzei dechavosei. That is very clear to me, and I explained it at great length in Minchas Rosh Bava Kama Siman Nun Vav. So, in my opinion, our sugya, blowing shofar, Rosh Hashanah Shabbos, has nothing to do with the machlokes Abaye Rava. If it would have to do with mitzvah b'avera, but that is a discussion on Rishonim. By a mitzvah derabanan, do we say mitzvah b'avera loy yotzo? So let's go over to Toises Sukkah Dav Gimel Amud Aleph. Imos isu ken lo kiyamto mitzvah yomeko, afilu mitzvah d'oraisa lo kiyam. Chelk Yisrael Vargus. So in our sugya, he doesn't have a mitzvah at all. So let us examine this big chiddush in Tosfos. How could Chachomim say we invalidate the mitzvah d'oraisa? What is that based on? Where did they have the authority? Torah says this is a mitzvah, and Chachomim say it's not a mitzvah. Chachomim could say midrabanan it's not a mitzvah. How could they say mid'oraisa it's not a mitzvah? Dvar Avram, the covenant of Chelik Beis, Simachov says, probably the kavanah of Tosfos is, it's not a mitzvah because a mitzvah b'avera. But once again, that depends whether we say mitzvah b'avera by Yisod Rabbanon. And it doesn't seem likely that's the kavanah of Tosfos, because if that would be Tosfos reasoning, they probably would say, Lo kiyamtu mitzvah mishum sheze mitzvah b'avera. Few places in my Svorim. First, Minchas Osha Psochim Peivav, Minchas Osha Kloli HaMitzvahs, which is a recent sefer, Simach of Tes. I wrote my understanding. But first I quoted Reb Shloime Kluger, Shulchan Aruch Chaim Tov Reish Lamed Aleph. Reb Shloime Kluger is medayek the Shulchan Aruch like Tosfos, Ke'ilu lo yoshav besukkah, and he says, Divrei Tosfos ein lehem pesha, they don't have any pshat. So anybody familiar with Reb Shloime Kluger, he was such a palpalan, and he says such gevaldige chedushim. Reb Shloime Kluger ra'a pesha b'dvorim shebemet ein lehem pesha. If he writes ein pesha, that means really hard to understand Tosfos. But I wrote my opinion. Nimsar adover lechachomim, and that is one of the most fundamental yesodis that I teach. The concept of nimsar adover lechachomim. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, Lo tosem akol asher yomer lecho. ועשיסו ככל אשר יום לכו, לא יתוסם הכל אשר יגידו לכו. ושמעתם את משמעתי. Kodesh Baruch Hu gave authority to Chachamim, and he, as if, deposited his Torah in the hands of Chachamim. And Chachamim have the authority to say, if you don't follow our rules are the rules of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us the power and authority, you don't even have a mitzvah d'oraisa. But the question is, the way I understand it, how far does that go? So in the sources I mentioned, I argued against the Pri Megadim Reish Ayin Aleph and the Minchas Chinuch Mitzvah Lamed Aleph. They deal with Kiddush, with Birchas Hamazon, and they say, if you make Kiddush without a cuss, against the rules of Chachamim, you don't even have a mitzvah d'oraisa. But that goes against the Mugun of Roma Reish Ayin Aleph. If you don't say Birchas Hamazon, Gimel Boches Lefi Tikun Chazal, you're not even Moitzah Birchas Hamazon d'oraisa. And I say no. So let me explain my fundamental approach to this Yesod. Kol Divrei Chachamim go into one of three categories: Gzeres, Mitzvahs, Takonos. These three categories, the fundamentals, include Kol Divrei Chachamim. Gzeres are many. Shavusim b'Shabbos, Shniyas ba'arayas. Our halacha, Yoshe b'Torcha Sukkah, Shulchone b'Torcha Bayis. Menatoid, of course, he has the mitzvah of Sukkah. Chachamim say no, we are afraid. It's quite reasonable and common if a person is sitting at the sukkah, but all the food is on the table. And not always does he have a servant to offer him. So he's going to get up from his chair, go to the other side of the table, and he might be forgetful and eat in the house. So Chachamim said, Lo kiyamtu mitzvah sukkah. The very first Mishnah in Shas, in Brochus. Min ha-Torah kriya shema ad lo shachar. Chachamim say ad chatzois, because he might fall asleep and he's going to be b'matel mitzvahs kriya shema. Those are gzeres, mitzvahs. Many mitzvahs that are born, Chanukah and Purim, Persum and Issa. Meya brochas b'kol yoim midarabon. Those are mitzvahs. They're not gzeres. They're not siag l'Torah. Number 3 is takonos. Chachamim want to give pattern and in Jewish life, communal life, family life. They were talking tkonas hashuk, tkonas haloikchin, tkonas nigzal, tkonas hashovim, to encourage people to do tshuva. And then tkonas in the family structure, like ksuba. Ksuba is only midarabon. These are the 3 categories. Libi yoimeli. We do not find anywhere that Chachamim said, we invalidate the mitzvah d'oraisa only by gzeiros. And it makes a lot of sense. Because when Chachamim boim laharchik es ha'odam and ha'avera, a person could make a cheshbon. I prefer being mekayim a mitzvah d'oraisa and being mevatel a mitzvah d'rabbanan. So why should I listen to the Chachamim? So the Chachamim must have the authority to say, no, if you don't listen to us, you have nothing. All you have is an avera and you have no mitzvah. And therefore, lo kedivra prima godem v'amenches chinuch has nothing to do with kiddush, with berachas hamazon. Those are mitzvahs, not gezeres. And I wrote even beyond that. Maybe Chachamim don't even have the authority. Not that they didn't exercise their power. They might not even have the power. Only bagzeres. And why is that? 2 different sources in Shas. What is the source of koyach Chachamim that we have to listen to them? Shabbos chov gimel hechen tzivonu loy tosur. Yavom es chof aleph. When Chachamim added on isurei bia. What's the source of their authority? Ushmartem es mishmarti asu mishmeres le mishmarta shel Torah. 2 different psukim, 2 different sources. And to me, maybe 2 different concepts. It is only from ushmartem es mishmarti that Chachamim have the power and authority to say, if you don't listen to our rules, you don't have a mitzvah at all. But this discussion is not really relevant to our sugya, because Hashana Shechari b'Shabbos is a gzeira. But I still have 2 arguments, to be miyashav Rabbi Kiva and to reject the Chalkas Yoyev. As we see, this is a gevaldige chiddush. And maybe Chachamim didn't exercise this authority only by a gzeira kroiva. The gzeira shemi yamoshech acha shel chonai is very convincing. Person is sitting in the sukkah, the head of the table, but all his food is on the table in the bayis. And not always does he have somebody to serve him. He's alone. So he'll get up, he walks to the other side of the table, and just he forget for a split second, for a moment, and he's going to start to eat. But the gzeira shemi avirena daladav shubzam is so unlikely and unreasonable, as I explained at the beginning of the Shiur. This guy isn't normal. He wants to blow the shofar. Didn't think about it before Rosh Hashana. He gets up Rosh Hashana in the morning and he's looking for a Rebbe to teach him to blow the shofar. So maybe Chazal were very picky when exercising this power to invalidate a mitzvah d'oraisa. I also think there might be a difference between Konas Chazal and the very structure and form and the way we perform a mitzvah, L'moshel Kiddush ala kois, or in a case, it is different than when Chachamim said, Shabbos, don't blow the shofar at all. Maybe in that case, if he does blow the shofar, he still has a mitzvah. And the kpeda is only when we are Mekayim a mitzvah different than the way Chazal taught us how to perform the mitzvah? What are the details of the mitzvah? What actually do you do to perform this mitzvah? And therefore, Rebbe Akiva Eiger might be right. But on the other hand, I want to say a powerful argument. Is this possible that a person does a Maisa and he has a mitzvah and aveda, is going to get schar mitzvah for performing the mitzvah and aveda for being over and divrei chachamim? L'chayre, the mitzvah for the schar for a mitzvah d'oraisa is greater than the oynish of an issur d'rabbanon. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So to me, it's a milsa de pshita. Maybe in the chefza there still is a mitzvah, but regarding sechar, he will only get oynish and no sechar, because he goes against the Ritzoin Hashem. So even if we say Chachamim don't have the power to make away with the mitzvah d'oraisa based on Tosfos and Sukkah Daf Gimel, that doesn't mean he's doing the right thing. Chachamim wants us to listen to the Chachamim. He will get zero sechar. In Minchas Osher, Moedim Chelek Aleph, regarding Yeshiva B'Sikha B'Zman Yeridas Geshomim, I wrote a similar concept at length. Sometimes there's a chefza de mitzvah, but you don't get reward if you go against Chachamim. And therefore it's a pshitas to me. Even according to Rebbe Akiva Eiger, there is a concept of chinuch, but all he will get is Gehenim and zero Gan Eden, because Chachamim aser to blow shofar and Shabbos. And therefore, to me, it's a milsa de pshita that if he said a shechiyanu, it's a bracha levatola, and he needs to say one tomorrow. How could a person say shechiyanu v'giyonu lesman hazeh on an avera, which is not really a mitzvah? So to me, there's no question at all. Person blew shofar Rosh Hashanah b'Shabbos the first day. It's a bracha levatola, both brachas levatola, berachas mitzvah and berachas hazman. And he needs to say the Shechiyonu tomorrow. Minchas Osher on Corona Siman Peiches. I wrote a tshuva. It was such a different time. You know, I printed the Minchas Osher on Corona after a year of Corona. It was a bestseller. Everybody bought the Sefer. Today, nobody touches it. I think people are afraid they might get COVID by touching the Sefer. So I need to inform everyone, this Sefer doesn't carry any viruses. It's not dangerous. You could buy it. You could learn it. It's an amazing Sefer. And Siman Peiches, I wrote a tshuva to the Chortkever Rebbe in Manchester, who was a choshev Talmid Chochem. So there was a story. A person, first day Rosh Hashanah, Shechali is b'Shabbos, was desperately ill. He had corona, and the doctors say, we need to take him to the hospital. And in those days, in the corona ward in the hospital, ein yotze ve'ein bo, it was being locked up in a cell, and it was clear to him he's not going to hear shofar tomorrow, and he didn't know b'chlal what's going to be with him, whether he'll live it through. And he begged to blow shofar on Shabbos, first day Rosh Hashanah, instead of tomorrow, and he was pleading. And some Rabbonim, the Chortkever Rebbe wrote me, maybe it was his own idea, said, maybe there is room. Maybe, according to the Akiva Eiger, it's an aveda, but it's a mitzvah as well. So maybe in these circumstances, when the person is so concerned, maybe the mitzvah d'oraisa would override the issur d'rabbanan. And my opinion was, no way, because to me there is no mitzvah, even according to the Akiva Eiger. This is an aveda and only an aveda. So I wrote a lengthy tshuva. I don't have the time right now to go into all the details. But Rav Friedman, that wrote to me, notified me, I didn't know this, Shalas Tshuvas Memamakem, Chelik Dalet Siman Hey. And many times, I love the Sefer. To me, it's a holy Sefer beyond just the Divrei Torah. Memamakem is from Rabbi Ephraim Oshri, was a Godel B'Yisrael, and he was probably the greatest Talmid Chacham in Ghetto Kovno. And the Shilas came to him, and he wrote tshuvas on scrap paper, because when you came to the ghetto, they didn't prepare a kit with a pad and a pen and a pencil. So he used to look for scrap paper, write his brief tshuvas, and bury his tshuvas by the posts of the barbed wire fence around the ghetto, hoping that if he will survive, he will try to retrieve those chetalach and develop those little tzetalach on scrap paper into a sefer, and he did survive. And after the war, he produced 5 volumes, Shalosh Tshuvas Mimamakim. And he writes a story that was tough Shin Gimel Rosh Hashanah in Ghetto Kovno. Suddenly a person arrived out of nowhere with a shofar, and it was Shabbos. And he told the people he needs to leave tonight, Motzei Shabbos. People were so excited. They have a shofar. It was Shabbos, but tomorrow we will no longer have the shofar. And they came to ask Rav Ashi, could we blow shofar? And he writes, I was in such a dilemma, I didn't know what to answer. He didn't respond. And he writes that many blew shofar. After the Shon, he went to visit the Kovner of Agon, Agodler Bavrum, Doiv Kahana Shapira, who was ill and elderly. He passed away in the ghetto. And he told him the story, what happened the day before yesterday. And the Kovner of said, they did good, they should have blown shofar. B'chiyai gavna loy gazru chachamim. So Rav Friedman asked me, maybe the same would apply to our case, in which a person is desperately ill. He won't have his shofar tomorrow, and he wants to blow. And I wrote, to me it is clear. The Kovner Rav only responded this way, B'di'eved, he wouldn't give a heter to blow lechatchila. Then he said the Rabbanan, and he said the Rabbanan across the board. He said what he said to be mechazik those tzibrochen Yidden. Whatever they did l'shem shemayim, tzaddikim. They so much wanted to blow the shofar, and they don't deserve to be pained. So he gave them chizuk. You did the right thing. I don't think that is a psak lechatchila. So anyway, this is my mahalach in the sugi of shofar b'Rosh Hashanah es b'Shabbos. Many people are worried and troubled when Hashana falls on Shabbos. We're missing the greatest gula. Akedas Yitzchak that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers for us. Imre lefonei malchiyos, tam lachoni aleichem, zechoyne shiala zechoynechem lefonai, ubemeh b'shofar. And many wonder, how come Chachamim were mevatla mitzvah shofar for such a far-fetched gezerah, when shofar is so important? Our lives depend on the shofar. When we blow the shofar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ani ezker lachem Eloi shel Yitzchak ben Avraham Akedas Yitzchak. Reb Meir Simcha Parshas Emor writes, when we don't blow shofar because of a chashash isor, ein lacho akeda ruchnes gedoyle mezu. It's a profound thought, but still ein advorim misyashvem el haleiv. Why did Chazal mevatel mitzvah shofar, which is so important and essential? Libi Oimeri. There are 2 reasons to blow shofar. One is kapora, akedes Yitzchok, yana zechroinchem lefonai. We are worried, we want to have slicha and kapora. But the other is malchus shemayim, tamlechuni aleichem. And all our tefillas and Rosh Hashanah are all about the malchus. Rabbeinu Sadi Gun writes 10 reasons to blow the shofar. Malchus is number 1. Reb Meir Simcha presents another thought, a beautiful and amazing thought. And I might say for Minchas Rosh Sichas, I really expanded and broadened this concept. Brachas Davav, Gemara says, Kodesh Baruch Hu puts on tefillin just as we do. Tefillin the Kodesh Baruch Hu maksiv bei. Mika amchi yisol goyechad ba'aretz. Our tefillin is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We exalt the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and Kodesh Baruch Hu exalts us. So to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please with us. I want you to have kapora, please. Tikka lefonu b'shofar shalayel. I want to remember Akedas Yitzchak. Yana zechroinchem lefonei letoivo, b'meh b'shofar. But to us, it's all about Malchus Shemayim. Meloich al kol olam kulei b'chveidecho. That is our shofar. And I always say, If a person loves the king and is loyal to the king, he needs to abide to his laws. If you abide to his laws because you love the king, you also need to love his children. And you need to follow his rules and respect his ministers and people that carry his authority. You can't say, I love the king and fight his family. You can't say, I'm loyal to the king and go against Sorav v'Yoatzav. So Chachamim were choishes, Shemi Yavarena Dalad B'Zamis B'Shusalam, and they considered what's going to be with the shofar. There is no manifestation of Malchus Shemayim greater than to adhere L'Divrei Chachamim, because they speak in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when we say, we're not going to be Zeicha to Akedas Yitzchak, because to us Malchus Shemayim comes first, and we abide to the laws of the king, and we respect those that speak in his name, that is the ultimate manifestation of Malchus. And to us, Malchus comes before Kapora. And then what happens? Imre lefoni Malchus, kedei shetamlechuni aleichem. Zechonis kedei sheyara zechoinchem. Malchus comes before Zechonis. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will remember you even without the shofar. The Mishnah Perek Daled, Sech Roshon, I quoted the Mishnah at the beginning of today's Shiur. Yom Tev Shel Roshon Shechal Yes B'Shabbos. Chassidim say Avot in the name of the Heilige Baditcha V'Tzadik, the Kedushas Levi Sani Goron Shel Yisrael. Why is it Yom Tev Shel Roshon Shechal Yes B'Shabbos, and why don't Chazal simply say Roshon Shechal Yes B'Shabbos? So the Kedushas Levi said, when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbos, it's a Yom Tov. It's the best thing we could dream of. And why is that? There are so many kavonas and shemis in Tekiyas Shofar. Very few people really know what to be mechaven. And in all the machzerim, between Tashrat and Tashat and Tarat, we mentioned the Maloch HaMayotzeh mit Tashrat, Maloch HaMayotzeh mit Tashat. Who knows really how to blow Shofar? But when we can't blow, HaKadosh Baruch Hu blows for us, and he knows all the kavonas, and he knows all the shemis. There never was a better Baltakeh than HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah Shechal Yes B'Shabbos. That's a magnificent day because HaKadosh Baruch Hu blows for us, and his tkiyas are always the best. So I plead with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you blow for us anyway, then please add on another tekiyah. Kensoineis horim tiru, ukeskoya shofar tishmo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, add on another tekiyah and blow for us. Because shofar shel Moshiach tzedkeinu, we should be zeichet u'aksiva v'chasim etoy, and it should be a shnas geula v'yeshua b'mheiro v'yomeinu. Amen.